Hi, Carl Ford here in the TMC newsroom at the Kimmel Center at NYU, and I'm here with Blair Reeves. Blair, what is your official title before I take you much further?
I'm a product marketing manager at IBM.
Okay, and thank you for being here. You know, we really were looking forward to having a big discussion about mobile commerce, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on in IBM with the Smarter Planet Initiative. Tell me about the Smarter Planet Initiative as it relates to commerce.
Well, so IBM has an initiative that we like to call Smarter Commerce, and it's focused around the idea that our world is becoming more interconnected, smarter devices, empowered consumers, and a marketplace that's becoming more connected and more responsive to what people need and what people want. So at IBM, we think that companies increasingly need to put the customer in the center of their business, as opposed to focusing on things like their advertising, focusing on channel-specific initiatives within their companies. So within Smarter Commerce, we have many different solutions, product capabilities, and so forth around buying, marketing, selling, and serving customers. And where I kind of fit into that portfolio is on the market side. So how you market effectively to connect consumers across any different channel, where and how they interact with your business.
Okay, and you know, you brought up an interesting point. First of all, there's all these stovepipes or silos that people have, and you know, it sounds like we're in a big data discussion. Is this part of big data?
Everything's part of big data now, really. I mean, there's so much data going out there, not only around the marketing side, but around how people are buying, how people are talking to each other, talking to the companies they do business with on the internet, how people talk to each other via social channels and so forth. And all of that is data that companies can leverage and companies can use to serve their customers better and to represent themselves better in the marketplace.
So I've had lots of conversations about big data in various capacities. So help me understand big data as it relates to commerce. What's the analytic that you're trying to get to? How are you helping these people?
So there's a lot of data out there that's already available, right? There's data that customers are producing themselves through earned media, right? Through the stuff that I post to your Facebook wall about your brand or your company, or in the way I like it, the way I don't like it, what I like about it, what my friends like about it, or what we don't like about it. And increasingly, you're seeing, especially with millennials, and I'm one of them, we like to talk about companies that we like, companies we don't like, through many different channels. So that's part of the discussion. Another part of the discussion is on the transactional side, right? So what I buy, how I buy it, where I buy it, and what I do with it, that's all information that's also capturable through a number of different tools. And then there's also the way that I engage with different brands or different companies, right? So either in an offline context, in a store or in a kiosk or in a call center, or in an online context through your website, through your mobile app, through your social presence, and so forth. And what we're increasingly seeing is that these aren't discrete channels or discrete experiences. For today's consumer, they're a part of one larger, seamless, omnichannel experience, right? And so, taking the data that you're collecting from all these different contexts and putting it into one unified view of your customer is incredibly valuable to a lot of companies. But it's a capability that I think a lot of companies in our space are still struggling with.
And does that kind of represent a situation where it's cultural change within the company as well as coping with the outside world? You're giving a picture of a full soup to nuts experience for the consumer, but often the companies kind of, the guys who are selling one widget don't really care about the thingamajig on the other side. So is part of the goal getting a high enough level in the discussion to make it so it's comprehensive?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a technological issue. It's an organizational issue. It's a cultural issue. And sometimes it's a political issue inside many organizations. And you see some companies are doing this really, really well, and some other companies aren't. And it's all part of kind of digital Darwinism. Around the companies that can adapt fastest, move the fastest, and make smarter investments or smarter moves with their customer base versus those that are kind of stuck in the past.
Okay, and is there any particular experience you've had recently providing your services to somebody that you think was a lot of fun? You don't have to mention the company, but maybe the concept and what you guys did.
Sure, sure. Well, there are a couple of different examples I could think of. One example I would use is I was talking about this in Monaco a few weeks ago. One of my favorite airlines. Airlines are kind of a mixed crowd, right? So some do this really, really well. They kind of move between different channels and different points of engagement with their customers in really, really smart ways, and then others don't. So in the same day, I was flying to like France, right? And my airline was really easy to get information from. So I checked in, was able to check in for my flight online, was able to pay for my bags online. I got my boarding pass on my mobile device, so I never had to touch a piece of paper, which is awesome because I hate dealing with currency, right? On my iPad, I could kind of see a whole map of where I was going to go, figure out where all my frequent flyer miles were going to go. Really, rich experience that provided value to me as a customer, right? And then, I actually had a problem with my flight later on. There were some weather issues and that sort of thing. And all I had to do, I could tweet the company. I got a substantive response back with a name and an address to email. I was able to work out my issues with the company. They were able to just look at the single view of my experience across many different channels to figure out what had gone wrong and how they could resolve the situation. It was amazing, right? By contrast, the guys who I get my internet from, my provider down in Raleigh, Durham, I had some problems with my service, and I was calling people, I was tweeting people, I was emailing people. No one had the first clue what was going on. No one knew who to talk with. I was getting conflicting information from different people. I had to repeat the same information 3 or 4 or 5 different times: my address, my phone number, my account number, my birth date, my social security. All these different things, and it was very clear. And by the time, several days later, when I got a technician out to my home, it was clear no one had ever communicated any of this stuff to him. So I go through this whole set of hoops again. It was an awful experience, right? And I think that's an experience that a lot of customers, especially in that space, are encountering, right? And it's only due to barriers to entry or whatever it is that people aren't disrupting that space. And increasingly now you're seeing Google Fiber. They're disrupting that space, and I think that you're going to see more of that as time goes forward, and different companies learn to use different technological innovations to serve the customers better.
Okay, and the last question I've got for you is, you mentioned to me earlier about Watson. So tell me how Watson's going to help you with commerce.
Well, it's a whole other bag of worms, isn't it? One thing we announced back in Nashville was the Watson Customer Engagement Advisor, which is a capability we are working on now and should be available in the intermediate term future. In which Watson is going to be able to use natural language processing to understand your question or your complaint or your problem as a customer, and resolve it in a way that leverages both the kind of information I have on you as a customer that you've provided to me already, and then also the problem that you're explaining in context, so that I can resolve a question, I can resolve a complaint, or resolve a problem you're having, and that's going to provide a lot of value not only to customers. 60% of calls to customer services lines today are left unresolved, and we think that's a lot of value that customers aren't getting, and that companies are wasting on the system that doesn't really work very well.
Cool. So the same thing that solved Jeopardy, could win Jeopardy, can probably help me close my customer care ticket, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's all about using your information in a meaningful way. That it's a really good example of the kind of smarter commerce, smarter planet strategy, and the direction that we see our world coping with the increasing amounts of data that we have, and using it in a meaningful way that provides value to people's lives, and builds a world that's a lot easier to live in.
Cool. Blair, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.